The 2016 presidential race is featured on the Business Courier front page centerpiece. The question, who's better for your business, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? The 2016 election could have a big impact on businesses of every size. When it comes to the issues that will affect companies the most, Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump diverged the most notably on tax policy, corporate, individual income tax, estate tax, and capital gains. In addition, reporter Chris Wederick looks at 5 other issues that matter most to businesses and where each candidate stands. They are the Affordable Care Act, immigration, trade, infrastructure, and regulations. Chris is with us this morning to talk about some of his findings. He's with Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer in the studio. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Great package, I think, on the cover of this week's Business Courier. And for our viewers who don't know this, the Cincinnati Business Courier is part of a big chain of weeklies called American City Business Journals. Chris actually covered both of the political conventions for our entire 43-paper chain and also wrote the story for our entire chain, which is pretty unusual for us. We're usually very local, but we felt like this was such an important issue that we devoted Chris to it, and Chris, I think, did a great job. Maybe you can start out. Obviously, Trump and Clinton they're opposed on a lot of different issues, obviously. Right. But what were some of the most interesting business positions that they held that's different?
You know, one of the most important positions I think that Trump has that I think is going to be very interesting for a lot of business people is his position on the individual income tax. And most small business owners, that's what they pay. They pay the individual income tax rate. Trump would change that. He would set a kind of a blanket business tax rate at 15%. So corporations, large corporations like GE or Procter & Gamble, they would pay 15%. And so would the individual entrepreneur who has just one business on their own. They would pay the same rate. So the effect of that, and this has been written a lot about out in the business press, is that you would have a lot of people trying to convert to freelancers because they would end up paying less taxes as a freelancer than as an employee of a business. So that is something I think that we'll see the campaigns both talk about going forward and hopefully get a little bit more insight into what Trump is thinking there. Some of the other issues, the estate tax, Trump of course wants to repeal that. Hillary wants to actually keep it and make some enhancements to it.
Right.
It would increase the more, the bigger estate that you have. So those are a few of the major ones.
Let's talk infrastructure. I mean, money right now is essentially free. Interest rates are still very, very low. Our roads and our bridges are crumbling. I think there's no controversy there. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
What are their plans to improve the infrastructure of this country?
You know, Clinton wants to, she's got kind of a tiered plan. So she wants to spend a total of $500 billion on it. The needs in the country are about 1.6 trillion, so it doesn't really even get you half of the way there. But she's got a proposal where she'd, kick in $250 billion. And then set up what's called an infrastructure bank, another $25 billion, which she then hopes would attract the rest of the money to fix roads, bridges, do more high-speed rail, do more transit, just a whole gamut of priorities that she has. Trump says he's a little bit less detailed, but he says he would double what Clinton wants to do. Didn't really say how, but he clearly has big dreams there as well for rebuilding the nation's infrastructure. One difference between the two of them, though, is Clinton would pay for that by various changes to the tax code, increased taxes for the wealthy. Trump says we should basically borrow the money because credit is cheap. So,
last question for you, quickly. It's rare that we see a Republican nominee who is as anti-free trade as Trump has said he is.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, it looks like he's against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is kind of a NAFTA-like agreement with some of the Asian nations that we don't have solid trade agreements with. He also says he wants to rip up NAFTA and some of the other trade agreements that we have, and if the countries don't agree to renegotiate them, then he'll basically cancel them. So it's It's quite a strident stance that he's taken compared to Republican orthodoxy, which has been for decades that free trade means more jobs, a better economy for the United States. Trump just doesn't agree with that.
Well, we'll have a lot more on this. There's a little fatigue, I think, amongst anybody who covers politics right now, but it's only a couple more months to go. So anyway, thank you so much. It was a great package this week.
Thanks for having me.